They say you never forget the day you come home to find armed guards circling your land like it's Fort Knox. But I promise you, nothing prepares you for 6 men in tactical vests blocking every entrance to your own ranch, assault rifles slung over their shoulders, eyes cold and hard as stone. You'd think I was El Chapo the way they were staring me down like I was the criminal, not the guy who spent 15 years behind the wheel of an 18-wheeler to buy this scrappy patch of Texas dirt. "You're trespassing on HOA property, buddy," the head guy tells me, dead serious. I almost laughed, almost. But there's a point when outrage knocks the wind out of you, and let me tell you, this was it. I'd just pulled in after 3 weeks away in Dallas, sorting through the mess of my old life, finishing a divorce that felt like it chewed up my soul, selling off everything that wouldn't fit in the back of my pickup. That ranch was supposed to be my fresh start, 200 acres, an old silver airstream under the oaks, the promise of quiet. Instead, I get a checkpoint, a navy blue blockade with Meadowbrook security signs and guards patrolling my fence line radios, crackling SUV idling like a shark waiting for blood. The weirdest part, everything looked exactly how I left it, except for the uniforms and those eyes watching my every move. Scrubby mesquites, that battered barn roof, half collapsed under rust, my old solar panels glinting under the sun generator, humming like a distant memory. This was my home sweat and dreams built into the ground itself, and suddenly these mercenaries are telling me I'm the stranger here. The first guy steps up, Morrison on his tag, muscle-bound, not much for conversation. Next to him, Valdez, a wiry fellow with sharp eyes, hand never straying far from his sidearm. "Sir, state your business." The kind of question that makes your blood boil. "Business, I live here. This is my property." But Morrison only glances at Valdez like they've rehearsed this script. "Sorry, sir. The Homeowners Association has assumed temporary management of this area under abandonment provisions. You need to turn around and leave." That word abandonment hit me like a fist. I showed him the trailer, the improvements, the whole story. I'd only been gone to close out my old life, tie up loose ends. But all Morrison did was hand me a fat envelope official as all hell from the Meadowbrook Hills HOA. That signature at the bottom, Miranda Ashworth, made my skin crawl. See, Miranda used to be just another friendly realtor at those community potlucks, the type who bakes you cookies with a price tag. The real president was a grandma type named Eleanor. So how in the world did Miranda suddenly get the keys to the castle and enough pull to hire muscle from out of state? I scanned that paperwork, community standards, environmental hazards, legalese that felt so fresh the ink could smear if you touched it. Show me the actual documents. Show me where it says you can take my ranch. But all Morrison would say was, "You'll need to take that up with Mrs. Ashworth." Their job was just to keep me out. And with those radios, those out-of-state license plates, that cold, hard authority, I realized this was bigger than neighborhood busybodies. As I drove away, fighting off a panic I never knew I had, I caught a glimpse of Valdez's clipboard security detail, day 2. That meant these guys had only been here since yesterday. Someone moved fast, lightning fast, while I was away turning my land into occupied territory. That's when the anger started to burn. I called Eleanor, called the county clerk, called a lawyer. Nothing but dead ends, runarounds, voicemails. I kept asking myself, how the hell did Miranda pull this off? How did the rules change overnight? What did she want with a busted old ranch that hadn't seen a fresh coat of paint in 20 years? I decided to get answers in person, rolling up to the Meadowbrook Hills Community Center, a gleaming, air-conditioned monument to suburban delusions. Marble floors, leather chairs, and Miranda Ashworth herself behind a desk, dressed like she was about to argue in front of the Supreme Court. "Mr. Thornton," she says, voice smooth as silk, but colder than an ex-wife's goodbye. "There's no misunderstanding. Your property's been in violation of Section 127.3 for weeks now." I showed her my paperwork. No such section. "Community standards evolve," she replied, all patronizing smiles telling me the governing documents were recently amended to grab up abandoned land. When I pressed for proof, she dodged hiding behind restricted documents. And when I called her out on the timeline, pointed out Harold Bridges, one of her board signatures had been dead a month before he supposedly signed. She didn't even flinch, just accused me of being mistaken. It was clear as day this was a con, and Miranda was desperate. I left her office with more questions than answers, but also a glimmer of hope. All this legal muscle, all these documents, they were nothing if I could prove they were fake. And then right on cue, I got a text. Stay away from the property. This is your only warning. Now it was personal. I dove into the county records, got help from Patricia at the clerk's office, a woman who'd seen more paperwork shenanigans than anyone alive. Turned out the original HOA covenant covered only the residential parcels, not my ranch. Agricultural land parcel 347B, never in the subdivision, never under HOA jurisdiction. The so-called amendments Miranda waved around, never filed, never legal. When I checked the plat maps, the lines were crystal clear. My ranch stood alone out of reach. All that legal thunder Miranda brought was built on quicksand. Then Eleanor finally called, furious sharp as ever, very much still president. She'd never resigned, never signed over authority. Miranda's been forging signatures, Eleanor said. That's criminal fraud. Even as we spoke, I realized someone was tailing me, a black SUV parked just a little too close, a shadow that never quite left. The threats ramped up, anonymous texts, a fake deputy sheriff trying to lure me back to the ranch for a meeting, a thicket of fake environmental notices delivered under my motel door, all designed to box me in, break my resolve. But I've been a trucker for 20 years. I know paperwork, I know how to fight when you're up against a wall, and I know when a threat is just smoke. So I filed reports on Miranda's unlicensed security, took photos, got the DPS involved. When Miranda tried to throw environmental hazard signs all over my land, I called her bluff, hired a real environmental team led by Sarah from Austin Environmental Services. We snuck onto my own property by creek bed before sunrise, running soil and water tests before Miranda's goons even knew we were there. And what did we find? Not a hazard, but a gold mine. A pristine aquifer limestone caves, mineral deposits worth millions, water rights so valuable they'd make the oil men jealous. As the showdown loomed, Agent Barrett from the Attorney General's office stepped in. She'd been tracking fake HOA scams statewide. Miranda wasn't a mastermind, just a pawn for Meridian Development Corporation, a shell company, snapping up land with criminal precision. The next day, with armed marshals backing me up and a real judge at the helm, the whole house of cards collapsed in open court. All those forged documents, all those threats exposed. Miranda, her hands shaking, couldn't explain away signatures from dead men. Sterling, the slick Meridian executive, tried to buy me out for pennies on the $4.2 million cash right now. But I wasn't selling. Not now, not ever. Miranda and Sterling went down in flames. Federal charges, real prison time, restitution for everyone they hurt. Eleanor stepped back in as HOA president, the community finally seeing through the lies. And me, I started the Willow Creek Water Conservancy with those water rights, partnering with the state to supply 3 cities with drought relief and sustainable agriculture, turning my near disaster into a regional blessing. Funny thing is, the victory didn't feel like fireworks. It felt like relief, a slow, steady breath as the dust settled and I walked my own land again. No checkpoints, no threats, no shadows. The old barn became a learning center, kids coming every week to see how water conservation could change their world. Even the people who'd once believed Miranda's lies came around apologies, gratitude, a sense of community I'd never known before. Here's what sticks with me. The law, for all its flaws, can work if you're stubborn enough to see it through. Greed, no matter how slick, always leaves cracks, paper trails, hasty forgeries, enemies made among neighbors who know right from wrong. But the biggest lesson, sometimes karma isn't just about payback. Sometimes it's building something so strong, so lasting, that all the evil in the world can't tear it down. So I'll leave you with this. Where's the line between fighting for what's yours and standing up for everyone who could be next? Would you have caved, taken the money, or stood your ground when the threats got real? Drop your story below. Ever had someone try to take what's yours? Where do you draw the line on justice and revenge? If you felt that fight in your bones, hit like, subscribe, and tell us, when does the law become your only shield? When does community matter more than comfort? Let's hear your story, because out here, justice is what we make it.